That is making headlines this morning. President Uhuru Kenyatta has signed a law that guarantees freedom from torture, cruelty and punishment. The legislation outlines principles of the Convention Against Torture and Cruel, Inhuman or Degrading Treatment or Punishment. It provides for reparations to victims. The law also empowers the Kenyan National Commission on Human Rights to investigate alleged violations under the Act. It further empowers KNCHR to monitor the state's compliance with international treaty obligations relating to torture and inhuman treatment. So let's have a conversation about this. There are those who say this is an absolutely very good thing for the country. One of them is Victor Kamau, lawyer, KNCHR. Thank you so much for creating time for us on News Center, sir. What are your thoughts about this particular bill?
Yes. Firstly, I must say that we are very excited as a commission for the passage of that bill on the 6th of April by the National Assembly. And also, we are very delighted that His Excellency the President has assented to its becoming law. Because torture is something that has been around for a very long time. And the bill itself has been in Parliament in the legislative process for 6 whole years. So this is a very historic passage indeed.
Yeah.
Yes.
It makes you happy?
It makes me very happy.
What about it specifically makes you extremely excited?
What makes it extremely excited, firstly, is that it comprehensively deals with the issue of reparations and support of victims of torture. Now, firstly, the Penal Code does not really criminalize torture. It talks about assault and things like that, but it doesn't criminalize torture. And the National Police Service Act criminalizes torture. The NIS Act also, the Kenya Defense Force Act also, but that means the criminalization of torture was limited to those 3 scenarios. Now, it is clearly criminalized, and torture can be undertaken by anybody, even private individuals. So we are happy that this comprehensive act is going to at least make sure that torture is outlawed completely.
But sir, there are those who would argue that how much of torture is happening in Kenya?
Wow.
I love your reaction. Wow.
A lot of torture is happening in Kenya. It manifests itself many times, of course, in police brutality and harassment, but even domestically, but also in things like extrajudicial killings and summary executions. A lot of scenarios, maybe even employee-employers relationships. So torture is very widespread, and I can tell you we receive a lot of complaints about torture.
So by signing this particular law, apparently the president has now given the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights powers to now investigate violations. You now have the powers to investigate this?
Indeed, and that power is a power that we'd like to assure the citizens we shall use properly. Because we are empowered to investigate allegations of torture and to also obtain appropriate redress for victims of torture. So that is very exciting. Also, we are mandated to monitor compliance of the government with international treaties on torture, and that is a mandate that we look forward to executing.
Let me ask you, Wakili, there are those who have concerns on whether or not there are mechanisms that have been put in place to now implement this. What sort of mechanisms are now in place?
Well, the act itself is very comprehensive. For example, witnesses into allegations of torture will be protected by the courts with protection covers. Also, nobody will be extradited to a country where torture is likely to follow him. There are many, many mechanisms. Also, a person in custody on allegations of torture will be able to communicate with members of his family, and if he is not a Kenyan national, representatives of his country. So I think this basically the act is making sure that torture can be investigated fearlessly and can also be addressed robustly. We are also hoping that the National Coroner's Service Act, which has not yet been made into an act, it's a bill still, we are hoping it will be soon also passed, because it will complement very much this act also.
So you're hopeful this will actually get to be implemented. Let me ask you, so assuming you're a Kenyan and you're aware of someone who's being tortured or you're going through torture, what are the steps to take? What does someone do?
If you are a Kenyan and you are experiencing torture, of course you can come to the commission and complain. Even now, you will be able to complain to the police and say, you know, I have been tortured by a certain individual. And of course, it is a prosecutable case. So when the commission obtains and investigates these cases, it can actually refer them to the office of the Director of Public Prosecutions for appropriate action.
All right, so let's look at Kenya's standing globally in terms of torture. How are we doing in terms of human rights?
Kenya, well, I think we could be worse than many others. But I think this act really boosts our place in the international community, because we are complying we are complying with the CAT, which is the Convention Against Torture, which is the biggest international treaty against torture. So I think that this does us a lot of good.
So you're hopeful things will get better for the country?
Yes.
You're hopeful?
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much for speaking to us on News Center this morning. Victor Kamau, lawyer, KNHCR, talking about that bill that was signed by the President Uhuru Kenyatta, that guarantees freedom from torture, cruelty, and punishment. This is a big thing, the lawyer says. Victor Kamau, lawyer, KNHCR, says this is a good beginning for the country. Sir, thank you so much.